And we're live. Okay. Good morning, folks. It's Thursday, the 11th of January, 2018. We are on episode 2 of our Help Me to Parent free Facebook Live coffee mornings. I've got my coffee in my Jurgen Klopp cup. So thanks very much to the people who have sent in questions. We've got a few good ones. It's a cold one here today in the Help Me to Parent hub, so I'm trying to warm my hands up with my cup of coffee. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a nice morning. It's a nice fresh morning here in Drogheda, County Louth. And yeah, so look, let's just crack straight into the questions. And as people join in, you can fire up your questions onto the comments below. I suppose the very first one we have here is, my kids, especially my 12-year-old son, seem to have developed this habit of always needing to get the last word in during any discussion. Often these remarks are unnecessary and can quickly increase my frustration level, escalating a similar request into an argument. Okay, any suggestions on how to halt this growing family trend? So I suppose that's a bit of a tough one in some ways, but I think, look, I'm a great believer in naming things. So instead of trying to cover things up or try and be overly subtle, sometimes we just have to come out and say, this behavior is not acceptable. So if I was in your position, what I'd do is I'd sit the family down, everyone, and name it. Say, this is what happens. And what it does is it turns a simple request into an argument, and it's clear that everyone knows it happens. So the kids are well aware that this is happening. Sometimes they may do it on purpose, sometimes they don't, but they're well aware that it's happening. What I would suggest is that then say to them, what is it about this that, why is this happening? If they can't answer, you might get the shrug of the shoulders, don't know, whatever. You can say, right, well, we're just stopping it here and now. This is it. We're all making an agreement that this last word thing is not going forward. But you also need to put in place the consequences that are going to actually impact on your kids to make them stop, because there's a good chance they're going to test it. So there's a good chance that what you'll see is, maybe not the first time afterwards, but the second or third time, someone will throw in a little comment just to see how you react. So have the consequences ready. Have different consequences for each child, because different consequences are going to work with different kids. And let them know this is what's going to happen if you do it. And put it in place, but make sure you follow it through. Okay, so you can always, if you're in a discussion or asking a request or something, you can talk about, look, if this last word thing, remember, there's consequences. So if you do it, there's going to be the consequence. So let's not make it happen. So you're giving them a warning. You're letting them know, putting it back in their head that there is a consequence in place for this. And then you can, I suppose, keep yourself calmer in dealing with the situation, because you know what the consequences are going to be if they do it. And then see how it goes. Look, it's worth trying. With all of this stuff, what we have to try and do is knit it into the fabric of our family lives. So sometimes things will work really well, sometimes they won't, but it doesn't mean that they won't work in the future. So any of the tips and stuff that I give on my parenting courses are all very much around try it, but it needs to fit into your lifestyle, because there's no point in me turning around to you and saying, okay, this is what you do, and you have to change the structure of how everybody lives in your house. It's not going to happen. You'll do it for a week or two and then it'll disappear. It just doesn't work like that. So it has to work in with your family life and how it's going to work for you guys. So I hope that helps. Do come back and let us know if it does actually work. Okay. So the next question we have after a cup of coffee or a sip of coffee. My 4-year-old just asked how we made her. What do you recommend for answering this question for a child of that age? I told her I'd tell her another time. I'm such a wimp. There are some questions that I think every parent dreads, and that where the babies come from is definitely one of those. I think that everything is about giving information that's age appropriate. So she doesn't need to know exactly how she was brought into this world, but you can talk about how mum and dad love each other, and when adults love each other, they can make a baby, and hope that she doesn't say how. But you can always say, I'll tell you as you get older, but all you need to know is that you were brought from love. To be honest with you, most kids will accept that. They'll be happy with that. And, try not to make it into a big deal for yourself. And it's funny, with all of these questions that we've been sent in, that's the big thing, is we need to try and take the pressure off ourselves. Being a parent can be as tough as we want it to be. And by trying to put ourselves under the stress of having to get everything right, and sometimes we overthink things because we're worried about the future. So if I say this, will this cause my child to be or do something in the future? Or if I do this with them, or don't do this with them, or don't spend enough time with them, that they, they'll resent me, or that they'll be less. The reality is, with kids, we're all going to have issues. Everyone has issues. So you can't actually stop your children from having any issues. They're going to have them, whether you are involved in that or not. All you can do is try your best. That's all you can do. And if in the future it turns out that something you did while bringing them up was a mistake, or they didn't like, you apologize later on. But at any given moment, we're doing the best that we can with the information that we have. So, years and years and years ago, people told their kids that if you go past the horizon, you'll fall off the edge of the earth. Were they lying? No, absolutely not. They were telling their kids the truth as they knew it. That's life. So all you can do is try your best and take that pressure off. So, okay, going back to the question, don't delve into it too much. Tell her what she needs to know, and usually they'll be pretty satisfied with that. Okay? All right, next one. How can I stop my 3-year-old from pretending she's a dog? And this is a semi-serious question. All right, so semi-serious question. It is a little bit funny, but don't. That's what I'd say. Don't try and stop her pretending to be a dog. How many adults do you know spend their life going around pretending that they're dogs? She's going to grow out of it. It's a bit of fun. In fact, join in. Become a dog yourself. The chances are she'll get bored of seeing you pretending to be a dog. So have some fun with it. Make light of it. And, don't bring too much attention to it. She will stop. She will stop. Okay, let's see. Just a reminder, guys, fire in those questions if you've got them. Doesn't matter how big or how small. Okay, now this one is one of those ones that is something I get asked all the time. And it's, okay, I'll just go into it. A lot of my 8-year-olds school friends have gotten smartphones for Christmas. I don't think this is right, but I don't want her left out or made to feel like she's not part of the group. I'm really confused what to do. Oh, this is something that really comes up an awful lot. I suppose the first question I will always say to parents is, where will your 8-year-old be where there won't be a responsible adult around, where they won't have somebody that you trust them being with? And I would suspect that most of the time, there's nowhere they're going to be where they won't be with a responsible adult. So the next question is, do they need a phone? What do they need a phone for? At 8 years of age, what does a child need a phone for? If you can answer a question, so if, my child goes off for the day, like I suppose we all did when we were kids, if my child goes off for the day and, I'm not going to see her and she's out playing with her friends, maybe there's a need to be able to contact her. But most kids are going to be okay. We didn't have phones growing up hundreds of years ago when we were kids. So what we did was we went off and we played all day, and our parents just left us to it because there was no other option. So what I'd say to you is, if it doesn't feel right for you to allow your 8-year-old to get a phone, then don't do it. Okay? Don't do it. She may cry about it. She may want to feel. She may put you under pressure to say, "Oh, all my friends have phones," and stuff like that. But let's get one thing straight. They want a phone, but it's not a phone they want. What you're giving them is a mini computer. So they can access the internet, they can access whatever. And you can put parental restrictions in place, but that doesn't mean that one of their friends won't send them something that you don't want them to see, or something that they're not able to process. Like, we as humans don't fully develop, our brains don't fully develop until we're about 21 years of age. So I know myself, there are times where I turn off the radio, I turn off the news, because I just don't want to hear all the bad news. There are days I can't deal with it. And now put yourself in the case of an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old. How are they meant to process seeing children dying, hearing about people being bombed, all that kind of stuff? It's just too much for them to process. They find it difficult. And if you think about it, when we were kids, there was maybe the news was on twice a day, 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock. We were never really up at 9 o'clock to see the 9 o'clock news. So it was twice a day. And we never watched it because it was boring. But if you look at kids now, and if they're on social media, they're seeing every single little horrible thing that's happening in the world. They're seeing videos of kids getting washed up on Syrian beaches. They're seeing videos of terrorist attacks in Paris. They're seeing it all, and they can't deal with it. I get so many parents come to me looking for me to work with their kids around their anxiety. And their anxiety is around worldwide issues. You know, I'm really worried about terrorists. I'm really worried that someone's going to kidnap me. These are not real issues for these kids. They should not be made aware of it or have to even process it. So when we are giving our children one of these little devices, we're taking on to open them up to a world that they cannot necessarily understand or cope with. So it's really important, in my view, to ask ourselves the question, does my child really need a phone? So for me personally, this is something, I'm dealing with now for my soon-to-be 12-year-old, because she's going to be starting secondary school in September. And, myself and my wife have had the conversations about, when do we get her a phone? And then what do we put in place? So I suppose the other side of this, if you are going to get your 8-year-old a phone, you need to have a conversation about what they might see online is not necessarily real. Okay? Whatever information they come across online may not be real. Like, the majority of kids are just going to send silly photographs to their friends on Snapchat. But what happens if somebody else sends them something? What happens if they accept a friend's request or whatever from somebody else? Then you have something to deal with. And for me, the conversation around online safety and social media safety is as big to have with your kids as sex, as drugs, stranger danger, whatever it might be. It's as important. So I definitely think you need to have the conversation, if you are going to get the phone, around keeping safe online. If you do go on to helpmetoparent.ie, we do have some suggestions around how to have that conversation with your kids. The other thing I would certainly do is research monitoring software. So there's lots of subscription software out there for phones for kids where you can see, well, if you want to see everything that's happening on the phone, you can do it. Or if you want to see just certain bits and pieces, you can do it. So do some research around different types of monitoring software and talk to your kids about it and let them know, we are putting this software on the phone. So we're trusting you with the phone, but we're also putting it on to keep you safe so that you're not feeling overwhelmed or under pressure. And the other thing to remember is that social media, the minimum age for nearly every social media site is 13 years of age. So let that just sink in, because there are tons and tons of children under 13 years of age who have social media accounts. And if they have a social media account, one of two things has happened. A parent has allowed them to lie about their age to get the social media, or they have done it without the parent knowing. Okay, now this is not a criticism of any parents, but this is what's happened, because they wouldn't be allowed to set up an account without the permission of the parent or doing it unknowns to the parent. So they're all pretty much 13 years of age. So you do need to start to think about that. Well, what are the reasons for it being 13? Now, there are some things around privacy and, you know, in US law and stuff like that, but it is something you have to ask yourself. So what are the social media impacts? And I think as well, as your children get older, so when they do, you know, get to an age where a phone is just the norm, again, you have to have that conversation around keeping safe, about what you see is not real. And you're going to have the conversation around pornography, because look, it's horrible, but let's be honest, probably 99% of adults, if they were given a phone at 13 or 14 years of age, are going to search up pornography or pornographic terms because they're trying to learn about the world. So have the conversation, because one, what you don't want if you have a daughter is her looking at pornography and seeing something and going, that's what I have to do in a healthy sexual relationship. And people always worry about the daughters, but we need to think about the sons, okay? So if a son is looking at pornography and seeing, I suppose, a guy on there who has got a phenomenal body, has a massive penis, and he's looking at going, that doesn't look like mine, that can have a detrimental impact on how they feel about themselves and what's expected of them. So I think it's really important that we do that we have those conversations around this stuff isn't real sexual relationships. It's not, the expectation is not upon you to do everything that you're seeing on there, because they are going to see it. So I think it's really important that we have those conversations. So is there any questions left before we finish up? Because we've got a couple of minutes left. I think that phone one is tough. We shouldn't give in to pressures from outside of our family. If something doesn't feel right for your family, don't do it. Don't do it. Because if you're not ready, and if you don't feel your kids are ready, well then that's the most important thing. That is ultimately the most important thing. So only do it if it feels ready for you and your family. Okay, guys. So I think that'll do for today. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions. We're going to be back every week, every Thursday at 9:30, pretty much. And yeah, we will put this up on the Help Me to Parent podcast. So if you search on your podcast channel, Help Me to Parent, you will get our podcast. We're going to be uploading loads of stuff over the next few months. We've got tons to put onto it. So we hope hopefully it'll be of use to you. We love your feedback. So please do get in touch. And thanks very much, guys.